Hello, welcome back. I'm Darren, and today, as per the title, is 4K gaming asking too much? So, I'm going to go into this a little bit more because I read a lot of comments. Not particularly. I don't think there's many comments that probably came up on my videos, but I do read a lot of comments, and I probably want to go through a lot of the stuff that I read in the comments and my views. And I'll make this clear from the start, these are my views. And as I've always said, since I've started this channel, what's right for me isn't what's right for other people, and I don't expect it to be. So I kind of want to make that crystal clear before we go forward. But anyway, 4K gaming. So obviously, I've done some testing in the last couple of weeks. I've gone 1440p and I've gone 4K. And then I did some testing on upscalers. And I kind of obviously did a few videos touching on the subject of, do we need upscalers? Which I kind of came to the conclusion at 4K, yes we do. Now, I'm not going to say 100% yes we do. There are games that we could probably avoid if we needed to, and they might be games that we don't care about playing, so that's perfectly fine. And if you only play a certain amount of games, or if you're one of those people that like just constantly plays one type of game, and that game just happens to allow you to play at like 300 FPS at 4K, it's not a problem to you. But for me, they are important, and if I was going to recommend to someone, my recommendation would definitely be check the games you play, and also if you want to take longevity into account and you are someone that wants to play new games, then you shouldn't underestimate how much you might have to rely on upscalers. So now I've got that out of the way. I read kind of a bit of pushback on people at certain levels of hardware, and maybe some directed, I don't know if it's so much towards my videos or at the level of hardware I'm at. And you see a lot of people saying that 4K is still out of reach and you should just go 1440p. Now, I don't agree. And there's reasons that I don't agree, but I'm not saying that these reasons are wrong. These reasons are my reasons. And I think one of them I will touch on is, if we go, and I don't include myself in this because I don't get involved in console wars. I think they're hilarious, but I don't get involved. But if we are going to, as a PC community, push the PC master race and look down on console players, if we build a 3000 PC system and tell people that they shouldn't be playing at 1440p, they shouldn't be playing at 4K because it's too demanding and they should be playing at 1440p, I'm not quite sure what sort of message we're sending to console players, because they're gonna like laugh at us and they're gonna make us look real stupid. So I'd probably be wary of giving mixed information in that way. But at the same time, I completely understand what people say, and it isn't a one size fits all. I completely understand that there will be people, I have no doubt, that have 4090s that play at 1080p, and they will play at 1080p and they will try to push 500, 600 FPS in games. And if that's how they want to play their games, then I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. Now, touching on the second thing that I want to kind of go through is screen size, because I think there's a lot of misconception over when we're talking resolutions, but we're mixing up screen size, and screen size plays such a big importance. I don't think that should get confused. So you'll know this, and you can test this for yourself. If you're watching this on a 11-inch smartphone display and you're watching this at 4K, you're wasting your data. Okay. Now, if you're on, unlimited data, that's not a problem. But you are wasting your data because whatever your display might be at 11 inches, your pixel density is going to be so tight that you can watch it at 1080p on your 11-inch screen and it will look just as good. You might notice a slight difference, but we're talking like minuscule, and that's where I'm kind of headed with the screen size. So I have myself, luckily, I'm actually set up quite well. So technical knowledge for me isn't huge. But what I have available is what I can see, and what I can see is quite handy because I have a 27-inch 1440p monitor. I have a 27-inch 4K monitor, and I have what would be classed as a 27-inch ultra-wide monitor. So it is obviously a 34. So it's a 34 by 1440p. So it's basically a stretched out. It's the same vertical height as a 27-inch monitor, obviously longer on the ends. So effectively, I have the comparison of resolutions while I'm not taking pixel density, if that makes sense, into the equation. So if someone says, and people say this to me quite a lot, obviously, they've seen 4K, or 4K on their 65-inch screen is not that great because they've got a 1440p monitor and it looks way better on a 1440p monitor. Well, yeah, it will, because of the pixel density. And you have to take that into account. When you're judging resolutions, you can't mix up pixel density, and you're doing that by going from different size screens. So, for instance, I actually have, and it's still going strong, I don't know how, but I actually have a 50-inch plasma TV. It was a Pioneer TV. It was extremely expensive when I bought it, probably I'm thinking like 15, 20 years ago. And that's actually a 50-inch 1080p TV. In my lounge, I have a 50-inch 4K TV. The difference is huge. Now, when you're sat further back from them or further forward, which is another thing that I will go into, you can alter how you see that image. It just means that when you're watching a true 4K image through a 4K screen, you can stand extremely close to it and it will look pristine. Obviously, the further back you get, it stays looking pristine. It might even look a bit better. Whereas with the 50-inch 1080p TV, things get really nasty the closer you get to it. So you really need to have that distance away from the screen. And that goes exactly the same with the monitors. So judging on how far or how close you sit to your monitor, you can easily impact. Obviously, I'm sure that this is obvious to most people, but you will impact how good that final image that you see will look. For different people, there are different ways around it. If you're a TV gamer, you have obviously a lot more room in how you're going to play and how the distance that you will have from the screen. Now, if you're a PC gamer and you migrated to PC, I migrated to PC because I wanted to play mouse and keyboard. I wanted to be sat. I don't sit at a desk all day. I work in a garage. I work manual. I wanted to be able to sit at a desk and I wanted to play mouse and keyboard. So I am limited by the distance that I can create from myself to my screen. And in doing so, that means that I am obviously, the differences in resolutions become extremely apparent to me. Now, I also think that that does obviously impact not only the way that you obviously the screen you're viewing, so the resolution you're viewing, but I think it also impacts your immersion. So if you're sat too far back from a monitor and the monitor is what takes up your image, I find that breaks your immersion. So when I'm sat by my monitor, I almost want my monitor to not particularly be visible. I want the screen visible, and I want what's happening on the screen visible. I don't particularly want to feel like I'm looking across a room at a box and watching an image inside the box, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So what I will say is, certainly for me, at the level that I paid for these components, I don't think 4K is me asking too much. I'd almost think it's me asking too less. I would expect 4K for the amount of money I've spent on these products. And the reason is I've bought lower tier products, which is why I had a 1440p monitor in the first place. So I've run 1440p monitors for the last 2 years, and on far lesser expensive components and far lower tier components. So it's not just a case of prices come into it because prices have changed. I was running 1440p monitor on 70 series, 3070s and stuff like that. Even that, no, I don't think I went as low as a 3060. But I think I had a 3070. Well, the first GPU that I bought when I actually came back was a 2070 Super, I think. So I was running 1440p on that. I ran 1440p on 3070s, 3070 Ti's and all sorts of stuff like that. So I don't think when you're going to the level of a 7900 XTX, which is the most expensive and powerful GPU AMD have made, and then obviously the RTX 4080, which at the time was the second best GPU NVIDIA have launched, I don't think 4K is a reach. I don't think that I should be expecting to be playing at 1440p because 4K is asking too much. So the next thing I would say is, if you feel that you're in between, then there are ways that you can look into it, and the ways are DSR and VSR. And I know it's come up in a lot of conversations. Me and Andrew Frogboy, we've discussed this as well, and this was something that was helpful for me. So obviously at the time I was on NVIDIA systems. I was on a 1440p 27-inch monitor, same distance I am now, sat from my 4K monitor. So same screen size, same thing. And for a long time, I wasn't aware of DSR. I found DSR, and it opened my mind up to 4K-ish. And I say ish because there is a caveat. So I switched on DSR, and I think at the time I was playing Cyberpunk. Now, I was playing Cyberpunk, I believe, at 1440p native. I turned on DSR, I set it to 4K, and instantly the image that I saw was like, holy shit, why didn't I know about this? This is insane. And in my mind, I was thinking, I've got a 4K image. I don't have a 4K image. I don't have the pixels of a 4K screen, so I need to make that clear. What I was taking was the hit of 4K. So I was getting a better image than 1440p, but I was taking the image I was losing the performance as if I was running 4K. So I then was using upscalers to try and gain some performance back. And I can safely say, on a 27-inch monitor, 1440p native compared to DSR 4K to 1440p with DLSS quality was night and day. The DSR, even using upscalers compared to 1440p native, was so much better than 1440p native. And at that point, I started to play all of my games in that same way, because I didn't want to go back to 1440p native. So that kind of then led me down the path of, I'm now losing, I'm running pretty much the same performance now as if I was running 4K native, but I am still using a 1440p screen. And even though this is giving me a better picture, it is not giving me a 4K picture. So then I bought a 27-inch 4K monitor. And that was, obviously, I'm not going to say the impact was massive, but there was an impact. And the impact that came with that was when I was running on a 1440p monitor, DSR at 4K, and DLSS quality, there are a couple of games, I think Cyberpunk might have been one of them, where I tried maybe going to DLSS balanced, and at that point I noticed quite a drop off in visuals. So I kind of stuck to DLSS quality. Now going on to a 4K screen, instantly I could go DLSS balanced, which was the biggest impact that I noticed. And a lot of times I actually thought, hold on, DLSS balanced actually looks pretty good now. But it didn't look good on the 1440p through VSR. So that I noticed. So that was a way to claw back even more performance. So I kind of wanted to say that, like, you know, if you're around, I'm not telling people to go 4K. And what I will say is the last thing that you want to do is go 4K and then find yourself on a 4K monitor switching your monitor to 1440p, because you will then be at a disadvantage. A 1440p image on a 4K monitor will not look as good as a 1440p image on a 1440p monitor. So those are the type of things that I think a lot of people maybe get a little bit misunderstood. And I see a lot of comments on people saying that I might get this wrong, I'm not sure. It's not something that I've ever tried to do with my TV. I'm not even sure if I can do it with my TV. But you see like a lot of people saying, oh, I've got a 4K TV and I've set it to 1080p and it looks really good. Yeah, but it's not 1080p. You have a 4K TV, which means that it has the pixels of 4K, so the 2160. It's not going to look the same as if it was a 1080p screen with the pixel density, with the pixels of 1080. It doesn't have the 1080 pixels. So there's a lot that can get confused, and I think screen size is the biggest almost confusion that I see quite a lot. So if you really want to compare resolution, you should be comparing them on the same size. So, you know, if you're comparing a 32-inch 1440p image, you should compare that against a 32-inch 4K image to come to a conclusion of how much difference there is between 4K and 1440p. I hope that kind of makes sense. I hope I've got that right. I don't see how technically I've gotten it wrong, but who knows, I might have. But what I can say is, obviously for myself, I have a 27-inch 1440p, I have a 27-inch 4K, and I have a 27-inch, or effectively a 27-inch ultra-wide. And the difference in 4K for me is quite substantial. Now, someone with a 50-inch 4K and a 27-inch 1440p, you could actually find that the 1440p image would make you think that 1440p is just as good as 4K. It's not. If you had a true 1440p PC monitor that was 50 inches, it would look terrible. It really would not look good. Because you have to remember, obviously, TVs will also do some sort of processing when they're changing the size of the image that you're trying to display. So there's a lot that can get taken the wrong way, and I kind of wanted to make that clear. But at the same time, like I was saying, I don't think I should be perceived as reaching at 4K with the equipment I've got. Yes, I will have to use upscalers. I don't have to use upscalers on everything. You know, I mean, you could still play competitive titles, because competitive titles are generally not that demanding. If I want to play Apex Legends, I'm still going to be well over the refresh range of my monitor. And that's even playing it with all the settings cranked up. So, you know, even like a Call of Duty or something like that, if I'm pretty sure playing like competitive settings on a 7900, certainly on the 7900 XTX at 4K with competitive settings, I'm pretty sure I'm still going to be like 250 FPS. You know what I mean? You're talking like a potato will play on low settings. So I personally, for me, 4K is making the advantage. I'm getting what I believe is the advantage of paying so much for the hardware. If I was at 1440p, I'd feel ripped off. I really, like, honestly, I really would feel ripped off if I had to use these components at 1440p, because I've used 1440p on far lower tier components. So yeah, I don't think there's much more I need to go into that. I've gone on for 20 minutes rambling. If people, you know, if I've said technically something wrong, let me know in the comments. I don't claim to know everything. I don't claim to know everything. I don't claim to be right. And I completely understand why someone with my hardware, because it suits them, would want to be at 1440p. I completely understand why someone with my hardware would run at 1080p, because that suits them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I'm not arguing with people that they should be at 4K because of they might be using the same hardware as me. It does not work like that. But at the same time, I just want people to kind of understand in my thought process why I play at 4K and why I don't think I'm asking too much at the level of components that I've purchased and at the amount of money that those components cost me. I don't think I'm asking too much to be able to play at 4K. So I'll leave it there. Hopefully this might have been of interest, or maybe you might have learned something, or if not, just tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. I can live with it. I'm a big boy. So yeah, I'll leave it there, and I'll catch you in the next one.